In the high-stakes world of finance and tech, Arthur Sterling was a titan. His empire, Sterling Industries, a global digital powerhouse, was built on relentless innovation and an AI-driven platform called Odyssey. This system was so advanced, so crucial, everyone thought it was infallible. Well, until today. Today, the very heart of Sterling's empire was failing. Red lines cascaded across every monitor, a digital flood of pure chaos. The lifeblood of his multi-billion-dollar company was draining away with every tick of the clock. And the stock ticker? It was a terrifying nosedive into an abyss with no apparent bottom. This wasn't just a system crash. It was the sound of an empire screaming. Arthur Sterling normally commanded boardrooms with the cool calm of a four-star general. But now, he was a picture of unraveling panic. His knuckles were white, gripping his massive obsidian desk. His eyes darted between the failing Odyssey dashboard and the frantic faces of his top tech team in the emergency war room. The air was so thick with tension, it felt like another system was about to break, the human one. Status report. And someone better tell me something other than "we're looking into it." Every second this disaster goes on, we're not just losing money, we're losing everything. Our reputation, our market share, our future. Odyssey is our future. Sir, it's like nothing we've ever seen. The core architecture seems to be, well, disintegrating. This isn't just a server going down. It's like the basic code is rewriting itself into nonsense. Every diagnostic we try comes back corrupted. Odyssey wasn't just some platform. It was the central nervous system of Sterling Industries. It handled global commerce, processed billions in transactions, powered their advanced AI research, and even controlled the sophisticated environmental systems in their own headquarters. Its failure was like a total organ shutdown for the whole corporation. News alerts were already flashing on a muted screen in the corner. Sterling Industries plummets amidst catastrophic system failure. Market in turmoil as tech giant stumbles. Arthur Sterling, slamming his fist on the desk, a rare explosion of fury. Unprecedented? I don't pay you people for unprecedented. I pay you for solutions. Find one, now. What about Prometheus? The cold storage backup? Marcus, we're trying to initiate the Prometheus protocol, sir. But the handshake isn't completing. It's like Odyssey in its current state is actively rejecting the backup. It's fighting us. The war room was a hive of frantic activity, but underneath it all was a sense of complete helplessness. These highly paid engineers, supposedly the best in their field, typed furiously, their faces lit by the eerie glow of cascading error codes. They were like master locksmiths trying to pick a lock that kept changing with every attempt. The silence between their hushed, desperate whispers was filled only by Sterling's ragged breathing and the constant doom-filled beeping from the dying servers. Hours crawled by. Coffee grew cold. Hope started to fade, replaced by a chilling sense of resignation. Arthur Sterling, the man who had clawed his way to the top of the corporate ladder, felt the ground crumbling beneath him. He was watching his life's work, his legacy, turn into digital dust right before his eyes. He pictured the board, the shareholders, the media wolves already circling. This was more than a failure. It felt like the end of his reign. Amidst this symphony of tech collapse and executive meltdown, the polished doors of the opulent war room slid open, almost silently. Heads, heavy with stress and failure, didn't immediately turn. They probably expected another bearer of bad news, another problem with no solution. Instead, a young woman, barely out of her teens, stood in the doorway. This was Alara. Slender, dressed in simple, unassuming clothes, she held a worn lunch bag. She was the daughter of Maria, one of the building's evening cleaners. Maria, who usually kept to the shadows, had asked Alara to bring her meal since she was working a double shift. Alara, softly, almost hesitantly, "Excuse me, I'm looking for my mother, Maria?" She said she'd be cleaning on this floor. Her voice, quiet and calm, was a jarring contrast to the strained, panicked tones that had filled the room for hours. A few junior techs glanced up, clearly annoyed by the interruption. Sterling, lost in his own vortex of despair, barely registered her. He was on a call, his voice a low growl of frustration. Arthur Sterling. "No, I don't care what it takes. Throw every resource at it. I want Odyssey back online, or there'll be hell to pay. More hell than this." Alara's eyes, observant and surprisingly steady, took in the scene. The flashing red screens, the harried engineers, the palpable despair radiating from the imposing figure of Arthur Sterling. She didn't just see a room full of chaos. She saw intelligent people paralyzed by fear and a problem they couldn't solve. Her mother had often spoken of the pressures in this building, the way stress could hang in the air like a storm cloud. Alara had never seen it quite like this. Without looking up, waving a dismissive hand, "Not now. We're in the middle of a significant issue. Find her later." "Security. Can we keep this area clear?" But Alara didn't leave. Her mother had taught her to be respectful, but also to be observant. And what Alara observed was more than just a technical problem. She saw the frustration mounting, the finger-pointing starting to brew, the way people were retreating into their own silos of panic instead of working together. The energy in the room was fractured, dissonant. She'd always had a knack for seeing patterns, not just in code. A secret passion she'd nurtured through online courses and open-source projects, but in human behavior too. "Alara," her voice a little firmer this time but still respectful. "I understand you're busy, but the system, Odyssey, it looks like it's not just crashing. It seems to be in a feedback loop, a recursive error state, and it's getting amplified by each failed override attempt." A few heads did turn then, not with respect, but with a mix of disbelief and irritation. Who was this girl, the cleaner's daughter, to offer a diagnosis? Tech 1? Oh, really? A feedback loop, you say? And here we were thinking it was gremlins. "Thanks for the input, kid." Ending his call, his face like thunder. "Who let this girl in here? Get her out. We don't have time for distractions." Maria, Alara's mother, appeared just then, drawn by the commotion. Her face flushed with embarrassment and fear when she saw her daughter right in the heart of the crisis. "Maria, Alara. I am so sorry, Mr. Sterling, sirs. She was just bringing me my lunch. I told her to wait outside. Come, Alara." Maria gently tried to guide Alara out, but the girl stood her ground, her gaze fixed on the main diagnostic screen. There was no arrogance about her, just deep, focused concentration. Something about the rapidly scrolling lines of code, the chaotic patterns, had grabbed her attention. It was a language she understood, a puzzle that, despite its terrifying complexity, was calling to her. Arthur Sterling was about to explode again, to demand Alara's immediate removal, when something in her unwavering focus made him pause, just for a second. It was the kind of stillness you see in a surgeon before a critical cut, or a chess master studying the board. Against every instinct, against the screaming urgency of the moment, a tiny flicker of something other than rage sparked inside him. Maybe it was pure desperation. Maybe it was just how utterly bizarre the whole situation was. "Alara," pointing to a specific, rapidly scrolling block of code on one of the giant monitors. "There. That kernel panic. It's not random. It's being triggered by a specific orphaned process from Project Chimera. Wasn't that decommissioned years ago?" The room went dead silent. Marcus, the lead tech, stared at the screen, then at Alara, his jaw practically on the floor. Project Chimera was an old, experimental AI integration project, abandoned years ago because it was too unstable. Its tendrils were supposed to have been completely wiped from Odyssey. The fact that she even knew its name was surprising. The fact that she could spot its ghost in the machine, in the middle of all this chaos, was, well, astounding. Marcus, muttering, more to himself than anyone, "Chimera? That's impossible. We ran triple-check purges on all its modules. It shouldn't even be able to initiate a kernel-level command." It's not initiating directly. It looks like a leftover piece of code, a ghost in the machine, that got activated by the recent system-wide stress tests. It's creating a cascading data paradox. Odyssey is trying to resolve a command from a non-existent, unauthorized source, and it's tearing itself apart, trying to make sense of the logic. The backup system, Prometheus, won't connect because it's detecting a rogue element it can't validate. You're not fighting a crash, you're fighting a paradox. Sterling looked from the girl to his lead tech. Marcus, for the first time in hours, didn't look completely panicked. He looked like he was starting to understand, mixed with total disbelief. The other engineers were frozen, listening intently. Alara wasn't just throwing jargon around, she was describing the system's behavior with an unnerving, precise clarity they hadn't managed to find. "Arthur Sterling." Quietly, the storm in his voice momentarily gone. And how would you know this, young lady? I read a lot. Open source system architecture, legacy code analysis. It's a hobby. My mom sometimes brings home discarded tech manuals from the offices. I find them interesting. A hobby. She called it a hobby. The multi-million-dollar tech team had been battling this monster for half a day, and this girl, who read discarded manuals as a hobby, had walked in and, in less than 5 minutes, pointed to what might be the heart of the problem. But it wasn't just her technical insight that was starting to shift the mood. It was her demeanor. While the seasoned pros were frayed and agitated, Alara was an island of calm. She wasn't flustered by their stares or by the immense pressure in the room. Marcus, slowly as if testing the theory out loud. If it is chimera, a deep-core orphan process, our standard diagnostics wouldn't flag it until it was already causing catastrophic failure. We'd be looking for external attacks, hardware failures. We wouldn't be looking for a ghost we thought we'd gotten rid of years ago. Alara, it's not just about finding it. You need to isolate its recursive calls without triggering a total system wipe. A hard reset now with Chimera still active could permanently corrupt the core data. You need to gently guide it into a sandboxed environment and then sever its hooks. Think of it like diffusing a bomb, where one wire is also connected to the factory's main power. You can't just cut it. She spoke with an unassuming authority, not out of ego, but from pure, unadulterated understanding. She then turned slightly to the frantic team. Alara, everyone is trying so hard, but you're fighting yourselves as much as the code. The panic, it makes it harder to see the patterns. Take a breath. Please. Look at the data flow again, not as a wave crashing over you, but as a river you need to divert. Her words, simple and empathetic, seemed to cut through the static of their fear. A few engineers visibly relaxed their shoulders. She wasn't just offering a technical solution. She was addressing the human element, the emotional chaos that was making the crisis worse. This wasn't just a coder. This was someone with an innate understanding of how to lead, even if she didn't realize it herself. Arthur Sterling watched, a storm of emotions churning inside him. Astonishment, skepticism, and a desperate, tiny sliver of hope. Arthur Sterling, a man not exactly known for betting on long shots, made a split-second decision. His empire was already on its knees. What more could he really lose by listening to this girl who seemed to speak the language of his dying machine? Arthur Sterling's, though still strained, now held a new note. Reluctant curiosity. Miss Alara, you have our attention. Marcus, give her a console. Let's hear her out. Let's see this gentle guidance. A ripple of shock went through the tech team. Giving an outsider, a cleaner's daughter, access to their critical systems in the middle of a meltdown? It was completely unheard of. But Sterling's expression made it clear there'd be no argument. Marcus, after a moment's hesitation, cleared a terminal and gestured for Alara to approach. Her mother, Maria, watched from the doorway, her face a mix of terror and a dawning, incredulous pride. Alara sat down, her small frame almost swallowed by the ergonomic chair. For a moment, she just looked at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the struggling servers. Okay. First, we need to map the Phantom process's resource calls. It's latching onto system memory in a non-linear way, which is why it's so hard to trace with standard tools. We need to visualize its tendrils. Can someone pull up the deep system diagnostic for memory allocation? Not the summary. The raw feed. One of the senior engineers, a woman named Priya who had been close to tears just moments before, found herself responding to Alara's calm, clear instruction. She brought up the requested data stream on a central monitor. It was a cascade of hexadecimal code, a blizzard of information that was usually filtered and interpreted by layers of software. Alara, thank you. Now, can we cross-reference this with the I/O logs from the last 12 hours? Specifically looking for unauthorized escalation privileges from dormant modules. It'll be like looking for a single black thread in a tangled black skein of yarn, but it's there. As Alara spoke, she began to type, her fingers moving with a speed and confidence that didn't match her earlier hesitancy. She wasn't just giving instructions, she was actively diving into the digital storm. She wasn't arrogant, nor was she timid. She was focused, a conduit for a solution. The other techs, initially skeptical, found themselves drawn into her orbit. Her requests were precise, her reasoning sound. She wasn't just guessing, she was following a logical path they had missed in their panic. She asked for specific tools, legacy command line interfaces that some of the younger techs had only read about. Watching her fingers fly, a dawning respect in his eyes. She's navigating the kernel architecture like she designed it. That command string, that's an old debug protocol. Very few people even remember it. Alara didn't just understand the technical side, she understood the team's state. When a young analyst made a mistake, inputting a wrong command that could have set them back, Alara didn't scold. It's okay, the pressure is immense. Let's just revert that. She quickly typed a counter command. See? No harm done. We're looking for entry point Alpha 7 Kilo. It's probably masked as a system maintenance routine. Her ability to stay calm, to empathize with the team's stress while simultaneously performing highly complex technical maneuvers was extraordinary. She was not just fixing a system, she was subtly orchestrating a panicked group of experts, transforming their chaotic energy into focused effort. She asked questions, listened to their responses, and integrated their expertise into her approach. It was a masterclass in emotional intelligence and crisis leadership, all from a girl who brought her mother's lunch. Arthur Sterling stood silently, watching this unfold. The billionaire, the titan of industry, was witnessing something far more profound than a system reboot. He was seeing raw, untapped genius, coupled with a level of composure he himself had lost hours ago. The stock ticker was still a bloodbath. The news alerts were still dire. But for the first time since the crisis began, a fragile thread of hope began to unfurl in the war room. It wasn't coming from the highly paid experts, but from the quiet girl at the console, whose secret world of late-night coding and discarded manuals was now the only thing standing between Sterling Industries and oblivion. Alara, there. I've got a partial trace on the Chimera subroutine. It's buried deep within a compressed data archive that was supposed to be inert. It's like a digital time bomb, and the stress tests were the trigger. Now to build a containment field. Marcus, Priya, I need your help with this part. We need to create a virtual sandbox that mimics Odyssey's core environment but is completely isolated. We'll lure the process there, then sever its connections to the live system. She wasn't just telling them what to do. She was inviting collaboration, valuing their input. The team, galvanized by her calm competence and clear direction, worked with a newfound synergy. The earlier despair was replaced by a focused intensity. They were no longer just employees fighting to save their jobs. They were part of something incredible. For what felt like an eternity, but was probably only another hour, Alara and the Sterling Industries tech team worked in a state of intense, synchronized effort. Alara was the conductor, her quiet voice guiding their actions, her fingers dancing across the keyboard, weaving complex lines of code that were both elegant and brutally efficient. She anticipated problems before they even arose, her mind seemingly 10 steps ahead of the cascading failures. The air in the war room, once thick with despair, now hummed with a focused, almost reverent energy. Arthur Sterling hadn't moved an inch, a silent, astounded spectator to this extraordinary performance. Alara, her voice slightly strained but still steady. Okay, I'm initiating the lure. We're redirecting Chimera's primary function calls to the sandbox. It's going to resist. The system will likely appear to get worse before it gets better, as the rogue process fights for control. Don't panic. Hold the line on the firewall protocols we've set up. As she spoke, the screens flickered violently. Alarms, which had quieted down for a bit, blared with renewed intensity. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if everything was about to crash completely, beyond any hope of recovery. Several techs gasped, their hands flying to their mouths. Sterling felt his own stomach clench. Marcus, it's spiking. Resource consumption is off the charts. The firewalls are barely holding. Eyes darting across multiple data streams. It's the Chimera process. It realizes it's being isolated. It's thrashing. Maintain integrity on port 443 and reroute auxiliary power to the primary data servers. Priya, can you monitor the integrity of the core database? We cannot let that corrupt. Her calmness was infectious. The team, though visibly shaken, held their nerve, their actions guided by her precise instructions. Slowly, painstakingly, the violent spikes began to subside. The blaring red warnings on the main Odyssey dashboard flickered from crimson to amber, then, incredibly, to a steady, hopeful yellow. One by one, system status indicators began to shift from critical failure to stabilizing. Tech 2. I think it's working. Memory allocation is stabilizing. The recursive errors they're decreasing. Elara. A small bead of sweat trickled down her temple. She took a deep breath. Chimera is almost fully contained within the sandbox. Now, we sever the connection. This is the critical part. If there are any residual hooks, Marcus, on my mark, execute kill switch protocol Omega-9 on the sandboxed environment. Simultaneously, I'll run a full system purge of any remaining Chimera signatures in the live Odyssey architecture. Ready? Marcus, his expression one of fierce concentration. Ready. Marcus slammed his hand down on an enter key. Elara's fingers became a blur. For a few seconds, the screens went almost blank, displaying only a single pulsing cursor. The silence in the room was absolute. Arthur Sterling held his breath. Then, with a soft chime that sounded deafening in the stillness, the Odyssey dashboard lit up. Green. Across the board. System status? Nominal. Data integrity 100%. Network connectivity? Restored. A collective gasp, followed by a hesitant then uproarious cheer, erupted in the war room. Engineers hugged each other, some wept openly with relief. Marcus sagged back in his chair, letting out a shaky laugh. Priya was openly crying, a wide smile on her face. Priya. It's stable. Odyssey is fully operational. All systems green. I can't believe it. Elara leaned back, a small tired smile finally gracing her lips. She quietly closed the command windows she had been using, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. Her mother, Maria, rushed to her side, tears streaming down her face, enveloping her in a tight hug. Maria, sobbing with pride and relief. My Elara, my brilliant girl. I knew you were special. I always knew. Arthur Sterling slowly walked towards the console where Elara sat. The room fell silent again, all eyes on the billionaire and the unassuming young woman who had just saved his empire. He looked at the pristine green of his Odyssey dashboard, then at Elara, her face slightly flushed with exertion, but her eyes clear and intelligent. The sheer scale of what had just happened was beginning to sink in. His entire company, his legacy, billions of dollars, had been rescued not by his highly paid world-class experts, but by the quiet, observant daughter of his office cleaner. The irony, the sheer improbability of it all, was not lost on him. Section 6. A New Dawn. A Changed Perspective. Arthur Sterling stood before Elara, his usual air of unshakable authority, now replaced by a look of profound astonishment and dawning respect. The cheering had died down, leaving an atmosphere charged with unspoken questions and a sense of awe. He looked at the screens, all glowing a healthy, vibrant green, a sight he thought he might never see again. Then he looked at Elara, who was now sipping from a water bottle someone had handed her, looking a little overwhelmed by all the attention. His voice, when he finally spoke, was softer than anyone in the room had ever heard it. Miss Elara, I don't even know what to say. You walked in here today, into the heart of a disaster that had the best minds in my company completely stumped. And you performed a miracle. Shyly looking down for a moment. I just saw a pattern that was being overlooked, Mr. Sterling, and I tried to help. Everyone here worked incredibly hard to implement the solution. It really was a team effort once we knew what to look for. Her humility was as striking as her intellect. She wasn't looking for praise, just acknowledging the group effort. But everyone in that room knew who the true architect of their salvation was. Marcus stepped forward, his earlier skepticism completely gone, replaced by genuine admiration. Marcus, Mr. Sterling, she's being modest. What she did, it wasn't just about seeing a pattern. Her understanding of Odyssey's deep architecture, her grasp of legacy systems like Chimera, and her ability to troubleshoot under this kind of pressure, it's beyond anything I've ever witnessed. And her leadership, she calmed us, focused us. She was the one who led us out of the fire. Sterling nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on Elara. He thought of the millions spent on consultants, on training, on recruitment, all to find talent like this. And here she was, a diamond hidden in plain sight, her brilliance unrecognized until a crisis of epic proportions had forced it into the light. He thought of how easily he had dismissed her, how close he had come to throwing her out. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. Arthur Sterling. The stock? It's already recovering. The news outlets are retracting their doomsday headlines. You didn't just save a system, Alara. You saved this entire company. You saved livelihoods. You saved me from an unimaginable failure. He paused, then a thought, clear and resolute, formed in his mind. Arthur Sterling, I understand that your passion for this hobby is self-taught, fueled by discarded manuals and online resources. That kind of dedication, that kind of raw talent, is rare. It's invaluable. Sterling Industries needs people like you, not just for your technical skills, but for your clarity, your composure, your emotional intelligence. You showed us all what true leadership looks like under fire. I'm not going to offer you an internship, Alara. That would be an insult to what you've demonstrated today. I want to offer you a full position within our Advanced Research and Development Division, with a full scholarship to any university, any program of your choosing, fully funded by Sterling Industries. We need your mind, your perspective. We want to help you nurture this incredible gift, and frankly, we need to learn from you. Alara looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. Her mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The tech team broke into spontaneous applause, genuine and heartfelt this time. This wasn't just a job offer. It was an acknowledgement of her extraordinary worth, a shattering of invisible barriers. A genuine, beaming smile finally breaking through her shyness. Mr. Sterling? I don't know what to say. Thank you. That's more than I could have ever dreamed of. A rare smile touched his own lips. The thanks, Alara, are all ours. You reminded us today that talent can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the person who seems the most invisible holds the key to unlocking the greatest challenges. You've not only rebooted Odyssey, you've rebooted our way of thinking. As the technicians began the meticulous process of documenting the event and ensuring long-term stability, Arthur Sterling walked with Alara and her mother towards the door. He was no longer just seeing the cleaner's daughter, he was seeing a future leader, a game changer. The crisis had been averted, the empire saved. But more than that, a profound lesson had been learned in the gleaming towers of Sterling Industries. A lesson about perception, about hidden potential, and about the astonishing power of one individual who, armed with quiet intelligence and unexpected courage, could indeed shock everyone and change the world, one line of code, one calm intervention, at a time. The path ahead for Alara was bright, a future she had inadvertently coded into existence by simply being herself. And for Arthur Sterling, the world looked a little different, filled with possibilities he hadn't considered before. All thanks to the cleaner's daughter. So what did you think of Alara's incredible story? Have you ever witnessed someone's hidden talent emerge in a crisis and completely change everything? We'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story and want to see more like it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. What kind of story should we tell next? Let us know. What happened at Sterling Industries that day was a pretty powerful reminder, wasn't it? In a world that's often dazzled by titles and status, real brilliance and leadership can pop up from the most unexpected places. Alara's story isn't just about fixing a system. It's about the huge impact of seeing potential where others don't, of valuing intelligence in all its forms, and realizing that courage and calmness under pressure are qualities that can totally redefine an organization. It kind of shows you that the quiet observer in the corner might just have the insight to solve the toughest problems, and that emotional intelligence can be just as vital, maybe even more so, than technical smarts when you're navigating a crisis. The cleaner's daughter didn't just save a company, she rewrote its future, and in doing so, gave us all a timeless lesson to think about.